This is our 71st lesson. We're on chapter 17, the last chapter, next to the last chapter, I'm sorry, of the book. And we'll be working our way through it. And so we'll be probably about 4 more weeks and we should be through with the book. Okay? Marion Fox. We're looking at nutritionally related diseases because the nutrition changed after the flood. The flood changed the mineral and the content of the minerals in the soil. It changed the condition of the atmosphere. All of these factors affected the longevity of humans. And so this explains why people live to be 900 or so years of age before the flood, but after the flood, the longevity went down pretty precipitously. Noah lived about 950 years, and yet his son Shem, and only Shem's age is recorded, probably almost certainly because he's in the genealogy of our Lord Jesus. So, but I would assume that his brothers, Ham and Japheth, probably lived about 600 years also. But then their children didn't live as long as them, and the longevity went down. And I've already been through this. We followed it with a mathematical curve. It fit a decaying log base E or Napierian logarithm, natural logarithm curve, decaying curve. So we're going to look now at the vitamin deficiencies or diseases related to them. If the soil doesn't have the right minerals in it, the proper balance of minerals, the plants that are eaten from the soil and the animals that eat the plants that we eat, such as cattle and so forth, chickens and things of that nature, they won't be as healthy either. So what we get is, we're going to look at also vitamins or diseases that are related to mineral deficiencies, and we'll look at minerals that are toxic as well. Minerals are toxic. Retinol, vitamin A, is essential for the health of the skin and for fighting infections and for many other problems. Retinol, vitamin A, if you have a wound, a cut or something, it will help the cut or the wound to heal more quickly. And so vitamin A does this. It is definitely essential to the health of the skin and other parts of the body as well. But zinc also is helpful for the skin as well. We'll get to that later. Night blindness is linked with vitamin A deficiency. I know a preacher friend of mine who had night blindness, but I believe it's probably vitamin A deficiency. Vitamin A helps the body to heal tissue, wounds, and surgery, and so forth. And I'm citing sources here. I sent you the book, the updated book for the ones that are in the class, and we'll be working on this and try to get it ready for publication as soon as possible. Mazzarato, the source here is cited in the book. Beta carotene is a type of vitamin A, a form of it, and it's very helpful for health problems such as even fighting cancer. Stalin, Sthelan, cited. However, man-made or synthetic beta carotene is not effective. It really doesn't have any positive effects. So, and as with some of your vitamins, man-made ones can work, but some of them they won't work. They haven't reproduced it well enough. So man-made or synthetic beta carotene doesn't have any real positive effects. This is another source. Lutein and zeaxanthin are preventive measures to reduce the risk of cataracts, jocks and others, and macular degeneration, according to Watson. These are sources that are from reputable journals, scientific journals, medical journals. And so they show that these have this effect. these zeaxanthin, right here, this right here is very helpful with people that spend a lot of time on a computer monitor because it helps to reproduce and things that are depleted by the light from a computer monitor. The computer monitor gets off a lot of UV light, ultraviolet light. Lycopene, which is derived from tomatoes and red watermelons, is helpful for heart health, according to Snodderly. And Levy claims it is effective in helping to prevent cancer. And also, according to an article in the Medical Tribune, it is helpful for vision. And so lycopene is very useful in this. Interestingly enough, tomatoes is one of the only things that we can eat that we can cook it, and the vitamin or the supplement is actually improved or made stronger. It's more effective. Most of the time when you cook it, its potency is decreased, and it's increased here by cooking it, lycopene. Vitamin B1, which is also called thiamine, deficiency gives one the disease called beriberi. And there are other diseases that occur, but I just picked these out and studied them out. And so I'm just listing some diseases. Vitamin B1 deficiency, it doesn't just give you beriberi. It can give you beriberi, but it also can cause other problems as well. Most of your vitamin B, your B vitamins have to be taken together or as a group. They kind of work as a team. Thiamine also helps with our memories, according to Harold. And so this helps us to have a better memory, to remember things. Vitamin B2 and niacin is very effective in reducing bad cholesterol and raising good cholesterol, according to O'Keefe. And also it has other positive effects on the heart health, according to Martin Jodrek. Folic acid deficiency is also one of your B vitamins, leads to several health problems. It leads to spina bifida in babies and some other problems according to Super, as well as other health problems. And so women who become pregnant should be sure from their physician to get a prescription for folic acid so they can take it so that they won't have this problem with their babies. Vitamin B12, cobalamin, affects a wide range of the functions of our bodies. So it's definitely very helpful in this. These are all widely known things. For many years, it was only used by physicians to treat pernicious anemia. And then later they found out it was very helpful in other areas as well. So the medical profession has not recognized these very soon. It took a lot of time to really accept them, the usage of them. Widely known that the deficiency of vitamin C causes scurvy, but it's beneficial for other health matters. So vitamin C is very helpful. And again, what we need to be aware of, we can overdose on some of these as well. We need to be very careful of that. Vitamin C is both preventive, that's called prophylactic, and therapeutic. It can cure in some instances. Now, some of these vitamins and minerals are preventive, they're prophylactic, but they won't cure some problems after they occur. And so they are helpful in preventing, but they don't necessarily cure it after you've gotten it, some of the problems. Our bodies need a wide range of minerals to be healthy: boron, calcium, chromium, cobalt, which of course is in vitamin B12, copper, iron, magnesium, and manganese, molybdenum, potassium, selenium, vanadium, and zinc, and other things as well. Now, let me point out here, these are minerals. If we are deficient in these minerals, then we are not as healthy. And again, all of these factors, coupled with, as we've already pointed out, the lowering of the barometric pressure and also the decrease in the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere. All of these work together to lower man's longevity. Man can't live as long because of all of this. Boron has a positive effect on arthritis, according to Travers. Boron works as a team to help you absorb calcium and magnesium. Now, your muscles contract with calcium, so you can look. Right now, I'm just closing my fist, and I did that with calcium. Now, relax it and open my fist. It takes magnesium to do that. And whenever I do that, it takes both of those minerals to do the process, one to close it and one to open it. And of course, boron works together with both of those minerals to help them function. So boron has a positive effect again on arthritis as well as other factors, and it works in teamwork with the calcium and magnesium for the functioning of muscles. Of course, your heart has to have both calcium and magnesium because it contracts and then relaxes and contracts and relaxes every time it beats, every heartbeat. And it's effective at preventing osteoporosis, very helpful. People who have osteoporosis developing need to take boron, not an overdose of it, but they need to take some boron to help them. Boron deficiencies have been linked with kidney stones as well. And so taking a supplement of boron can reduce the incidence of kidney stones. Boron improved arthritis symptoms, according to Travers. These are studies now, side studies here. Hunt on boron and osteoporosis and on kidney stones. Travers here on arthritis symptoms. Boron deficiencies adversely affect our ability to concentrate, according to Penman, the study done by Penman. So when we're deficient in boron, we can't concentrate as well. These factors can be certainly harmful in learning environments like in school or other places. Chromium is another mineral that's essential to our health. It's essential for diabetics, particularly so, according to Anderson, and it's very helpful. It's essential for our heart health, according to Lafave. And so it's essential for your heart as well. Copper is useful in treating rheumatoid arthritis. And of course, there's an article cited, Olivares. Copper is useful in treating a nutritional form of cardiomyopathy. So again, it's useful in the treatment of cardiomyopathy. Cardio has to do with the heart. It's a Greek word for heart. Copper is essential for bone health, and so it works in the teamwork with boron and calcium and magnesium, and silicon also in the bones. An optimum value for health from copper, and an excessive amount of copper can damage the eyes and create macular degeneration. And the people with macular degeneration may be living in houses with copper pipes in them. That's a possibility. So there's other situations there that could affect this and give us macular degeneration called GAHLOT, GAHLOT, a study done there. Now remember, all of these are cited in the book that I've given you. And whenever we print the book, these sites will all be in that book. The best form of a supplement of copper is copper sebacate. If you decide to take a copper supplement, you should consult a physician. You can overdose on it and not a good idea. So you need to be tested for it and see if you really need it. So be very careful about doing that for supplements. When I was in elementary school, we were taught that a lack of proper amounts of iodine would create or could lead to what's called goiters. And this is a well-known fact. Now, iodine is preventive for goiters. It's prophylactic, that is, preventive. but it is not therapeutic. That is, once you get a goiter, taking iodine won't cure it. Sorry about that. Just won't, it'll only prevent it. Once you get it, it won't reverse it. Insufficient iodine also causes birth defects, cretinism. And here's the side source there. Insufficient iodine is linked with learning difficulties. Now, see how many things are linked with learning difficulties? And a number of things are. Not enough iodine is linked to it. Iodine is both preventive and therapeutic for fibrocystic breast and endometriosis, and the uterine fibroids, according to Gant. So iodine is very useful in that, and in preventing it. And obviously, if you don't get enough iodine, these things tend to come out more often. So there's a linkage with it. Iodine is found in, of course, seaweed, kelp, and seafood. However, there's no iodine in freshwater fish, such as catfish, bass, and perch, and crappie, or a fish like that. Even there's no iodine in the fish, such as trout. Excessive iodine, however, is toxic, so you can get too much. Again, so we need to be very careful of that. Don't get too much of it. I want to digress here just a bit because I watched a program on TV where a physician advised people to stop eating iodized salt because he said we get enough iodine from seafood. And of course, he was from one of the two left coast, as I call them. He was from the New York City area. This physician was from the East Coast of the United States, and his advice was not good. He's not a very rational person, or at least if he is rational, he just didn't care about other bunch of the people in the country. I think he just was irrational. It was possibly good advice for people to eat a generous amount of seafood, but not for other people. A large portion of the people in the country don't eat a lot of seafood. And the present fat in the United States, and I did an internet search on this, but I didn't get any real good high quality journal entries on it. But they said that sea salt, the sources that I could find on the internet, does not have iodine in it. And sea salt also doesn't have very many minerals in it. It's just mostly some salt and some other minerals that aren't very helpful to us. So sea salt is not really very good to season our food with. And it's not a good fat. I was told by a relative that a dietitian told them that we get enough iodine from our food because salt is added to our food, but most food processors. But that's not very rational thinking either. That's assuming that the salt that's added by the food processors has iodine in it. And most salt, and from salt mines and so forth, doesn't have iodine in it. So the iodine has to be purposely added to the salt. So this is only sound advice if the food processors use iodized salt. Since iodine is not normally found in salt, it requires the added expense of purchasing iodine to add to the salt. All right, keep that in mind. I strongly suspect that the food processing companies do not spend this extra money for the health of their people that eat their products, and because it will decrease their bottom line profits. Most likely that the salt that the food processors add to food is not iodized salt. Olhorst, Olhorst, discussed this problem, and they seem to agree with my conclusion. This is an article cited in a journal. There's a linkage also between iron deficiency and rheumatoid arthritis. Here's a source here that I cited. I'm not sure I'm a Beringen Hill, and that's a site there. Almost everyone is aware that iron deficiency causes anemia. In fact, it's just called iron deficiency anemia. However, a lot of people don't know that too much iron is very detrimental to a person's health. It can cause heart problems and some serious heart problems. It means there's an optimal amount of iron for us to be healthy. Now, our bodies are made, as God made them, there's iron exists in two different forms chemically, a chemical standpoint now, as it bonds together and makes with other elements. So there's two kinds of iron. There's one that comes out in organic iron. Just think of it as organic. And the organic iron, your body takes in what it needs and expels the rest through your waste. You don't overdose on it. You can't overdose on it if you eat chicken livers or green leafy vegetables like spinach or something like that with iron in it. That your body takes in what you need and then expels the rest. However, if you take a non-organic iron supplement, if you take an iron supplement, be certain it's organic. If your physician prescribes one, be sure when you buy it, it's organic. Because a non-organic iron, your body just keeps taking it in, and you could overdose on it. But there's an optimum amount that can be healthy for us. Most heart patients need magnesium, smirtina. And this is probably one of the biggest problems for people with heart trouble is they don't have enough magnesium. Your body has to have magnesium for the heart to pump because it takes calcium to contract and magnesium to relax, and it takes both of those and boron, of course, to help it out as well. But those three have to be there for your heart to be beating correctly, to function well. And so most heart patients are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium helps to stabilize irregular heartbeats, Keller and Arlson, and a study that they showed. Helps reduces high blood pressure. And here's another study. These are all out of reputable journals. Keep that in mind. They're reputable scientific journals or medical journals. It increases the body's blood pump for a given value of oxygen. Well, now, because the magnesium is involved in the flexing of the heart muscles, that makes perfectly good sense. And the Selig tells us in the study done. Magnesium reduces the probability of blood clots forming. That would be blood clots that would form and maybe even create what we call strokes and other problems. Magnesium raises HDL cholesterol and lowers LDL. LDL cholesterol is the so-called bad cholesterol, and HDL is the good cholesterol. Kind of keep that in mind. People who have migraine headaches have a low level of magnesium in their blood. Now then, here's the problem. You need to be aware of this. Just because they have a low magnesium level doesn't mean the low magnesium caused it. What caused the migraines might have caused the magnesium to be low. And so it might have been an effect rather than the cause. It might be the cause, however. But we know that they have low magnesium, the people with migraines, low magnesium levels in their blood. It's essential for the health of our bones, Abraham in a study. Now, what we find is your body, in order to survive, to keep the heart beating, if you run out of magnesium in your bloodstream, it starts pulling the magnesium out of your bones to keep the heart going. That's what your body does. And then your bones tend to suffer. And so people with low magnesium level may have brittle bones and bones that don't function as well. Magnesium is important for other reasons. It's probably the most important mineral in our diet. Manganese is another essential element for health as well. It's essential for the body to handle blood glucose. And of course, Rubinstein Manganese helps protect the body from free radicals, which do damage to our body. Here's a study here. Zinderberg and Scher. It's essential for our bodies to be healthy, manganese is. However, excess manganese is unhealthy, so you need to be very careful about taking supplements with manganese. A little bit is good, but too much is really bad for you, really, really harmful. Molybdenum tends to cleanse the body of toxins, and so it helps to cleanse toxins, according to Wright, a study by Wright. Molybdenum helps to relieve asthma symptoms for people with asthma, so they need to take a supplement of molybdenum. It helps to overcome seizures in newborns. Sometimes newborns have seizures and they have a deficiency of molybdenum, and they take molybdenum and it gets rid of the seizures. It's therapeutic as well as prophylactic preventive. Molybdenum lowers the risk of gastrointestinal cancer, according to a study done. So it lowers that risk. And so it kind of keeps that low, reduces that. Now then, potassium. Several prescription drugs that people take deplete potassium in the human body. Most people, if they don't take prescription drugs, get enough potassium in their body to begin with. But prescription drugs deplete it. This gives a condition called hypokalemia. Hypo is the Greek word for under, so they don't have enough of this. And most people get enough potassium from their diets unless they're taking drugs that deplete it. In which case, if you're taking some kind of drugs, you might need to have your potassium level checked on a regular basis. I don't take any prescription drugs at all. Take any. And so my potassium level is good. I've had about once a year, I have everything checked. Some prescription drugs elevate potassium level in the human body. So some drugs elevate it, some deplete it. So again, the drugs that are made by pharmaceutical companies have some very negative effects. Sometimes we need them, but we need to be very careful. Some of them can be very detrimental to your body. And it doesn't hurt to get on the internet and search from the drug companies to see what it does. Because if it's depleting something, you probably need to be aware of that and have that, be sure your physician checks that and see if you need a supplement of it. There's evidence that selenium is therapeutic for some sources, for some things. Selenium prevents viruses from mutating, for example. So here, selenium can be therapeutic. Some things, and it prevents viruses from mutating. Lymphoma is more common among people with low selenium levels. Now again, the low selenium might be the cause of the lymphoma, but it might be the result of the lymphoma. We don't know for sure. They don't know. We haven't decided which one it is. But they don't have, they have low selenium levels in their body if they have lymphoma. Maybe the low selenium caused it, maybe the low selenium is a result of it. Selenium is both prophylactic and therapeutic for cancer. People who have cancer should take a selenium supplement, or who have had cancer need to take a selenium supplement. And warn you about low levels of selenium are also associated with heart disease. Again, we see low levels of these associated. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the cause of it. They may be the result of it. The heart disease may bring on the low selenium. I warn you about misinterpreting the information that I've given you. Selenium is essential for thyroid health, according to a study by Berry. Multiple sclerosis patients have low selenium levels. Again, the multiple sclerosis may have lowered their level, or may be the causal factor that caused the multiple sclerosis. Toxic metals such as lead, mercury, and platinum, and other things, other toxic metals, appear to be causal factors in a number of health problems. And selenium bonds with these metals and keeps them from harming us, according to a study by WHO. That's very interesting. So it bonds with them. It doesn't necessarily get them out of your body, but it does bond with them and prevents them from harming the body. So selenium can be helpful. It's critical for preventing neural tube defects in infants. So neural tube defects in infants. And it's critical for preventing that. Babies who die of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, it's called, have selenium deficiencies. Again, we don't know whether the sudden infant death syndrome caused the deficiency or the selenium deficiency caused the SIDS, but they're linked together. There's a linkage. However, excess selenium is toxic. It's poison. Take too much of it. If you drink too much water, it's toxic. H2O. Therefore, there's an optimum value for health, and you shouldn't take too much, okay? Silicon is essential to the development of several parts of the human body. Now we'll go to another element, mineral, silicon. Now, don't go out and eat sand because it's silicon, but it needs to be an organic silicon coming to organic matter. And several parts of the human body. Of course, it's linked with your hair and fingernails and toenails, but it's also linked with your blood vessels. It makes them more elastic and helps them. It's been studied by Seaborn. Several parts of the human body, Seaborn mentions. It helps in the development of cartilage, such as if you have a cartilage problem, like a rotator cuff problem or something like that, the silicon is helpful. And also in your bones. These are two studies right here. Of course, we get organic silicon in root vegetables, beets, turnips, radishes, and so forth. So if you eat a fair amount of beets, turnips, and radishes, these are very good for you. They're very good for your health, and they give you this organic silicon, which is very good. So that can help things like cartilage and things of that nature. Keep that. And so your body's not going to take in an overdose of it if you just eat a bunch of turnips and beets and radishes. I like beets and radishes, but I don't like turnips. Probably just need to learn to eat them. Probably be good for me. Vanadium is another element, mineral. It's therapeutic for insulin-related problems, according to Brickard. Vanadium has not been studied sufficiently by the powers that be, Food and Drug people, to declare it as an essential mineral. However, I suspect it's essential since it's therapeutic. As we just showed a moment ago, it's therapeutic for insulin-related problems, according to Brickard. Zinc helps to fight viruses of many different forms. When I had COVID, I took zinc. I took several zinc capsules a day. I took 3 or 4 a day, one with each meal, because zinc really works good on viruses. And of course, COVID was a virus, COVID-19. So it helps to fight viruses, many different forms. It seems to help cancer as well, according to a study by Millicar and Harden, 2 different studies. And so that shows that it's helpful with cancer as well. There's a wide range of health problems that are related to zinc deficiencies. And some of these minerals, vitamins, are preventive, prophylactic, and some are therapeutic. They will heal or cure it after you get a problem, and some are both preventive and therapeutic. And some may be just preventive, prophylactic, but not therapeutic. Like iodine will prevent goiters, but it won't cure goiters after you get them, for example. But again, all of them, if you'll take the right amounts, your body's going to be healthier. If you overdose on something, do too much, it'll damage you. I already pointed out that some minerals, iron, overdose of iron, too much iron, is going to cause heart trouble. Copper causes other problems. Selenium is poison. Take too much of it. Iodine, it'll cause, we've already linked all of these. Zinc as well. If you take zinc, take it with a meal because it always upsets my stomach. I take one small zinc supplement every day. and don't overdo it. If I get sick, I start getting a cold, I'll take a couple of them, and that seems to help. But some are they're essential, and some are prophylactic in proper amounts, but they become toxic in excessive amounts. And remember, some of these, such as iron, copper, and so forth, exist in two different chemical forms. One's organic and one's inorganic. And organic ones, you almost never can overdose on them. Okay, most of them you won't overdose on them, but you can overdose on the inorganic. So there are two basic forms of some of these minerals. Keep that in mind. God created our bodies to assimilate the organic forms of these minerals because in the antediluvian world, the proper amounts of mineral were available through what they ate. That's my hypothesis. That's my conclusion. Because people were living to be nearly 1,000 years old, we don't live near that long now. If you live to be 100, you're considered very old now. It's widely known, of course, that lead is toxic. And so we don't need any lead in our diet. It's thought that the Romans suffered from lead poisoning. They used pewter cooking utensils. And if you've studied any chemistry, PB is denoting the abbreviation for lead is plumbum. And so the plumbing was made out of lead pipes in the Roman cities. So they plumbed their houses with lead pipes. And I remember when we had lead pipes in the United States in some of our houses. Of course, they took them out. But the Romans, it is thought they suffered from lead poisoning because they had it in their water, and they even had many other sources of lead. They cooked with pewter cooking utensils and ate from lead plates and so forth. And there's other things they did. Now then, there's some scientists that claim that they had excess lead in their bodies, but it wasn't a factor in the decline of their empire. But it certainly wasn't good for their health, whatever the case. So as to whether it caused the end of their empire or not, that's debated. But there's no debate about the lead poisoning, and lead was detrimental to their health. It affected their bones and other things. In the United States, we stopped using lead in our paints and our gasoline because it was poisoning people. We saw that and we got rid of it. They quit using it. Lead paint was banned in 1978 in the United States, quite some time ago. You can't sell it, you can't use it anymore. Hear people say we ought to eat a balanced diet. That's all we need to do. Now that sounds good on the surface, and yes, it's a good idea to eat a balanced diet. But the problem with I would agree with this if the conditions under which the foods were grown were those of the antediluvian world. Because the soil in the antediluvian world, my hypothesis, my conclusion is that it was fertile, extremely fertile. It was near optimum. And because we didn't have any rain to leach out these water-soluble minerals, pull deeper into the soil and to carry it downstream. And so we didn't have that. And also we didn't have the flood to stir up and the rotating waters of the flood to spin and separate the minerals by their weights, their molecular weight. And so the heavier ones and the lighter ones are separated through the spinning motion, the tidal action of the flood waters. The food is only healthy without supplements if the soil in which the foods were grown has all the minerals that it needs. We see this. It's axiomatic. That means it's a self-evident truth that if the mineral is not in the soil, or there's not a sufficient amount of mineral in the soil, it cannot be in the plant that's growing in the soil. If the soil, such as in Australia, has almost no copper in the soil, their plants can't have copper in them if there's no copper in the soil. Just can't be there. And so they probably need some kind of copper supplements a little bit in those parts of the world. Now, Chile, in the country of Chile, or we call it Chile, but Chile, I think is how they pronounce it. South America, that country, has an excess of copper in their soil. It's very interesting that they're just right across the ocean from one another. What about the fact that some people have genetic predispositions for some diseases? Whenever you study cancers of some sort, there are people with certain genes that they're more likely to get certain cancers, and that this does happen with some people. Should we just give up and accept the inevitability is going to get the disease, or maybe should we give them the right minerals and vitamins to maybe fight it off if possible? That might be the best way to do it. Why not give the body what it needs to function properly? A proper diet, exercise, don't abuse the body with drugs and alcohol and smoking and so forth, and reduce the chances of getting the disease. Again, I know I'm talking health here, but I bring this up for this reason. This ends our study tonight, but when we look at this, all of this is linked with the flood. The soil was depleted by the spinning motion of the waters, separating the various minerals out into veins. And I've talked about last time about a vein of copper running from a town of Elk City, Oklahoma to around Paducah, Texas. Lots of copper in the soil. And you go 100 miles east, there's not a whole lot of copper in the soil. But there's a lot there in that vein, probably from the spinning motion of the flood. There is also a vein of gold in the soil from about Ada, Oklahoma, up to Joplin, Missouri, in a region. Both of these are kind of shaped like a football, American football, not a football that's called in the rest of the world, but kind of shaped in that form. And that's kind of what you would get with the spinning motion of water spinning in tidal actions. So body, when it gets what it needs, it's going to be healthier. And let's remember that all of this lowered the longevity of man, and this is what this is all about. We'll have one more lesson on this next week, and then we will go into the scientific approach to my flood model. Are there any questions?